I guess it would help if I turned on the mic, huh? Hey, what's up? This is Khaliq Glover, also known as Khaliq-O-Vision, and we are live here today doing another hangout. I'm doing this as a public service to give whatever kind of assistance I can for the great Pensado Awards that are coming up. It's a mixing competition for these engineers that are trying to come up out here. They're going to have a lot of high level industry people judging their mixing skills. And there's a track called New York City. And that track is a challenge to even a seasoned engineer. There's a lot of little things. It's a great song that's in there, but there's some challenges technically that will really bring out and show where your engineering skill is. It's all about details and checking out little stuff instead of trying to go for the gusto and use every single plug-in that you need and all that. Many times the answer and the solution is going to be a lot simpler than you would imagine. So what I want to do is kind of reel things back for you guys, because there's so many choices, so many ways you can go. And I want to give you some things to look at so that if you decide to enter this contest, and by the way, there's less than a week. I think Monday is the deadline or something like that. I think it's the 14th or something like that. No, I guess that isn't Monday, but whatever, it's coming up real soon, so you actually have a few days. But what I would suggest is don't just throw anything in there. Take your time, do it right, break out all the skills that you can break out, and mix this baby and just win this competition. There's going to be a lot of people. This can put you in front of a lot of folks that can change your career if they see your skills. So if you take the time and do this, I think it's well worth it. Conversely, even if you don't want to enter the competition, join it anyway and download the tracks so that you can practice along with us, see some of these concepts I'm about to share with you. We've been doing it. This is our second one. Bill Kamak has shared some thoughts on his approach of how he would do certain things. We've got some other people that are going to come on here today and do the same thing. We had some other people that have already done it and entered the contest, and I want to get a few more. We're going to do this today, and then we'll have one more session after this. Then they're going to close the entry deadline that will be coming up. So I think we got today and one more other session. So get a lot from this. It's going to be very, very powerful, and it's going to help you a lot. And I just want you to come on in. People are gradually rolling in now. So I posted a link that if you want to come in and join us inside, we can hold up to 10 people inside with this chat, you know. And if you've actually got the song on your computer right now, on your hard drive, and you are mixing it, we can also, I'm in a mode where I love to hear what you're doing. We can listen and you can tell us what you want to do. So welcome, folks. And we got people chiming in right now, coming in. What's up, Don? I see you made it, man. What's going on?
Go on, Khaliq.
Hey, man. How you feeling today?
I feel good. How you feel?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good, buddy. Yeah. Did you enter this contest?
Yeah, I pulled the stems, and
Okay.
right now I'm still working on the drums. Actually, it's a tough,
Yeah,
it's a challenging track.
it is, isn't it? Lots of challenges, and there's 1,000 ways you can go to solve it. That's a big part of what I want to share with you guys, because the mistake that I've been seeing with some of the people that have entered and some of the entries I've listened to is you can tell that a lot of them dove in and didn't have a game plan for the end game per se. They just went in and started mixing. And with this particular track, you really have to know what you're facing and know the result that you want on the back end, and how you're going to get there is the whole key to it. And a lot of people, I could tell because I listened to it and I caught a lot of different little things that a lot of folks I saw missed. So I'm going to point some of these things out to you. They were so slick to give this track because they want to see who really digs in and catches the little details. And there's a lot of little stuff that'll trip you up, but if you caught them And I hope you were one of the ones that caught some of these details that I'm about to expose. And if you didn't, it's not too late. So I'm going to show you some things now. Now, everybody that's watching us, I want you to take notes. You know, if you got a pen or and paper to write down some of these things, because trying to remember it all is going to be too much. There's 1,000 little things. So write some stuff down, and as we go. But like I said, if you're not going to join the competition, download the track and at least play with it to try to improve your mixing skills. It's very challenging, and it's very different than working on your own stuff, you know, or the style that you like. So this is another thing that'll do nothing but benefit you and make you more well-rounded and add to your toolkit. So guys, welcome. And we got David here. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
All right, man. Are you in the contest too? Or you just go ahead?
Yeah, I'm trying to enter the contest, seeing what I can do. The track is really, really tough. Spent a whole ton of time editing the vocals, and I feel like I got that pretty close, but the drums are just kicking my butt. So
yeah, it's a beast, ain't it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm telling you, you know, when we did the first couple and everything, I had downloaded it, but I hadn't even listened to it. But just looking, like when Bill Kamek called up the track to just look at it, I saw some visual clues that showed me, you know, all I had listened to was the stereo track, and I heard some of the problems. But when I saw it broken out on the multi-track and saw how the waveforms were looking, I was like, okay, this one is going to be one for the books to pull out all the skills for anybody that has them. And so let me ask you this, since I got you here and you've already messed with it and everything. Anything you want to share with some people? Now, check this out before you answer that too.
Sure.
This is a competition, so I understand that you ain't going to want to give up the farm or whatever. You want to have the best chance. But the reason why I'm doing this particular training is we can all learn from each other well beyond the contest. The contest is good, and you know, the win an award potentially, and you know, get some software and gear and all that. That's all cool. But the long thing is to establish your career even further, make some connections, and people see that, oh, that guy's sharp. He knows what he's doing, and that's going to benefit everybody if we all share. And you know, you don't have to give away every little thing, but give away some stuff that will be valuable to everybody watching. This is exactly what I'm gonna do as well for you guys. Okay? So anything you want to share with folks that, you know, got you more in the ballpark, or stumbling blocks you ran across that is like, y'all better watch out for that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a big one with the vocals, and that was so I mean, I've been using Digital Performer, and they have like a tuning little app in there, and just to get the vocals in tune, that was a huge one, because there were a lot of lines that it doesn't matter how good you can mix it, they're out of tune. So you know, you're limited in how far up you can put it in the mix, unless you kind of adjust those, or at least I found that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's one of the things that I'm going to discuss as well. There were a couple of key lines that were really bad. It's like, oh, you know, because I'm one of the type of guys, you know, because I'm old school, so I was used to people, you know, singing and correcting through the natural process of singing before breaking out, you know, the auto tunes and other plugins. So I'm really one to see if I can get the best of it before I resort to all that stuff to make it sit up in there, because I don't mind a little out of tuneness if it in the end it fits and makes the track feel big and organic and strong. But there's some tracks on here that are just too far gone. I'm sorry, but you have to tune them. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, that was the tuning, and then there was some timing issues too. So, like this, I don't have any of the stuff that does it automatically, but just to make sure, like when there's the 4-part harmonies, that they all end at the same time, or all start at the same time. Because a lot of them they'd like stagger off, and again, it just really limits what you can do when these voices just drop off in a really unnatural way. So.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that too. That was something else that I noticed, and I'll be pointing that out. So we'll bat that one back and forth. It's the releases and the attacks. You know, they're staggering on how they're coming in and out, and you've got to make that stuff tight. And I've heard some people put some entries in and they didn't take the time to do that, but little stuff like that makes all the difference in the world, you know. And even not just the vocals, down to the instruments as well too. Some of the things aren't coming together and timing wise like they want. So you know, to make the track really happen, you've got to catch those little details, okay? So good, man, good. And see, we got Bill on here, and we got Leroy. Leroy, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm seeing you there, Leroy. What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Are you in it, man? You in the contest?
I am, and just as was just mentioned, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is doing a lot of tightening up with the timing and some of the tuning on the vocals. That seems to be taking a lot of my time right now, is getting that just right before I can move on.
Yeah. That's pretty huge and pretty major. Now, okay, and we're getting this going here, but one of the first things I want to mention to you guys too, because that's a double-edged sword, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised that it's a trick too, you know, because here's the other thing that you got to guard against. While some of this stuff needs to be done, you got to pick and choose your battles. You know, there's so much in this track, and some people are going to go off and go down a rabbit hole with trying to tune every little thing, put every little bit of timing together and all that. And by the time they get all that stuff done and perfect, then they haven't spent enough time making the mix and the song, the feel of the song come through. So be careful, because that's a double-edged sword that is going to bite a few people in this competition. I know that. So I want to save you guys that too, because it's one of those things, after a while you're going to have to make a decision. Okay, that one's out, that one's out, that one's out. Is it worth me taking the time to do it, or should I just move on, make everything sound as big, as fat, as powerful, and as clear as I can, and then see where I'm at then, and then maybe go back and address the tuning if I don't like it after that? That's, you know, that's kind of the way that I look at some things, you know. We got Bill on here, and Bill was attacking certain things like on the drums or whatever, and we discussed the pros and cons of approaching it that way. And like I said, no one way is right or wrong, but I myself I dug into that track, for example, and I see that there's so many problems with the drums, and one of the things I said I would do is try to separate some of the drums that were leaking onto the snare track. They only had a single rack mount tom track, but we clearly hear that there's a whole kit full of toms, but they didn't actually get recorded to come out powerful. So I got in that to see how separating them out would be, as opposed to another approach. And so what I would do, and I'm going to show you guys how I approached it. I would have a hybrid approach, is the decision that I came to, that if I was trying to do this and enter the contest and get in time for the deadline, I could not take every little bit and make those toms come out and be as separate as I would want. So the hybrid approach that I would have to take with the drums is make the overall drum kit sound good with what they've got, tighten things up, and then pull out little things on those tracks and just kind of squeeze them in to enhance what's there, as opposed to trying to worry about cleaning it up so much. I'd even make the leakage work for me, you know, because it's a whole drum kit and it's a feeling, and they captured it and they've gotten used to it or whatever. If I went in and tried to clean it up, there's a danger of stripping some life out of it as well, you know, and making it sound smaller and punier. It might be cleaner, but it might end up smaller and punier. So you have to always keep coming back and addressing that. Okay, for the purpose of what I want to do and the overall benefit of the song, I'll just, you know, maybe I'll just leave them alone and let them be one big stereo kit, and think of it in terms of that, and fill in and make that as strong as I possibly can. And I'll show you a couple of things that how I would get to that, you know, without it taking up too much time, because this song, literally, for all the technical challenges, would easily take several days, if not longer, to mix. And I'm talking about just mix, not just the cleanup and stuff like that. The cleanup is huge. Okay, so anyway, that's good. Oh, we got Gordon on here. What's up, Gordon? How you doing, man? Long time no see. What's going on, man? No audio. No audio. I can't hear you, buddy. Turn on your microphone or check your settings.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I haven't been here since, I guess, December.
Yeah.
But I've been following along, rest assured.
Oh,
So
cool. Cool, man.
I've
Cool.
and just recently I've caught up with the other 2 episodes in this series,
Cool.
and so I thought I would jump on here today and see what's up.
I'm glad you did, man. Now, are you in the Pensado Awards competition? Did you join it, or did you download the tracks to mess with it?
I downloaded the tracks. I'm still not decided if mine's good enough to even enter. You know what I mean? I feel like I want to, if I'm going to enter this at all, I want it to be, fairly, pretty up there. But anyway, I'll give it my best shot. The way it's looking, I think I will. So
Good. I think you should, man. Don't be scared. Or like I said, don't be scared.
don't be scared.
Yeah. Don't worry about it, because this is a learning process for the long term for your career. Like, you don't necessarily have to win to be a winner and do this. The whole reason why that's why I'm gonna go in and mess with it. I haven't gotten in to mess with it like I want to, but I've been toying with little aspects to see what the challenges are that you guys are facing. But since I've got it on my hard drive, at some point I'm going to go in and literally just try everything I know to solve a lot of these problems as I have different time to do it. So that's the benefit more than anything is they'll help you sharpen your skills, and the stuff that we're going to share with you, like Bill shared a bunch of stuff the other day of some of the things he would do, and then we talked back and forth on a lot of different things of how I would do it, or suggestions that I might make to adjust the approach. But the bottom line is now find your own approach for what works for you, and use a combination of everybody's techniques and everybody's advice to give you the best entry that you can. Okay. And
All of that was really helpful. I could say there's some things that you and Bill had done that that approaches that I haven't taken before, and it expands your horizons a lot.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and my hat's off to Bill, because Bill really dug in when we first started talking about doing this. Then it came together. Both of us had to make things come together real quick. And it's been a discovery process. So my hat's off to Bill, because he really dug in full force to have this benefit you guys, and the same with myself. I was like, let me dig in and do this all the way if we're gonna do it, and get as many sessions in as we can before the deadline on the 14th. So I'm glad you're in it, man. Learn from this and just try some stuff. Enter the competition and see what happens, just to see how your stuff stands up next to other people, and then make adjustments. That's all. Just make adjustments. It's a growth process. And we also we talked to David. We got Bill. We got anybody else in here? We got Leroy. We talked to him. Okay. People are going to be rolling in. I talked to Maat earlier today, so he's supposed to be coming on here with Dre the Most, one of his producers, and Dre, I guess, has approached mixing this and trying to do it. So they have tried to do some things several times as well, and because they've got so much time, and they can probably be very helpful with certain insights or certain challenges they faced, and why they may have had to keep going back to the drawing board to figure certain things out, because this is a super challenging track. And so I want them to come on and show us what's going on, because more people can benefit, and they'll be in here shortly. In fact, I'm going to send him another invite real quick, just to be sure that he got it, because sometimes these invites, I don't know, they don't get through. And I got to do it several times to make things happen. And Dave should be
Send it,
here a little bit later too.
send it to Mont in all capitals. That works.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. All caps, like he's screaming. Yep, yep. So, Bill,
He's
we
been
got you
known to
over
do it.
here too. Bill, or do you have audio? Or are you on? Or
Yeah, I'm
you?
on audio. I'm here. How you doing, man? How's
Doing
everybody
good.
doing? Gibbs, good to see you. Good to put a face to the live chat text person.
Yeah, what's going on, Bill?
Chilling. So what's up, Khaliq? What's going on?
Hey, man. So like I said, we're just gonna toss it back a few more times to help them dig in some more. Have you gotten any more insights on the stuff that you were doing on it? Have you had a chance to tackle it anymore?
I'm loading it up to take a look at it now to see if I have anything from myself. What the question we were leaving off with last time that I had for you was from your mono assessment, how you were planning to get to the stereo version
Right,
of
right.
your
Okay, I
track.
got
That's
you.
what I was interested in hearing about.
Okay, and what we're gonna do, I actually started breaking that out, but then I discovered some other things. So what we're gonna do on the last session, when we do our next session, I'm gonna get to some of the other instrument. I'm gonna get to the instruments, the depth things with using reverbs and delays and effects and all that, panning in the sound stage where I'm putting different things. Because today I discovered, David was saying and a couple other people, the vocals really got some major issues. So I'm like, okay, we got to look at these vocals because this is a huge vocal song. They got a billion vocal tracks. So I think it's going to be very helpful for people not to get caught up on some of the things that are going on in that vocal if they don't know to look for them. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there.
One of the things I ended up doing with the vocals was on I like to split vocals out to the side if they're backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're leads or doubles, they go down the middle, and then if they're backgrounds, they'll go down the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Or if the sides are really busy, if it's a dense track out there, I'll send them center left or center right. But basically what I did was with the side channels, I de-essed them a lot more
Mm-hmm.
because that's something that's gonna if somebody goes s or t or f, then it's gonna kind of echo the way you don't want it to.
Yeah.
If the lead is doing one thing and if you don't use whatever, like I think it was Dan was saying, he doesn't use a program to actually line things up exactly. If you don't do that, then your S's are gonna float out from the center to the sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's gonna
That's a good point.
like that. So that's very distracting. So I de-essed those a lot on the sides, and also if you have any transient designers like Flux Bittersweet, you roll it the way that it takes all the attack out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that way you don't have, again, with the hard consonants and stuff going down the center, you don't have them repeated on the sides.
Mm-hmm. I got you. That's cool. That's a great tip, y'all. So think about little stuff like this. See, this is why I love what we're doing here too, because it's little stuff like that that adds up that can help you end up with more clarity in the final mix, because you're taking the time to not just throw some stuff on without having a reason why you're doing it. Little stuff like that. Like he was saying, those S's can cause big problems and little sizzles that you don't want in the wrong place. It can mess with your rhythm. It can do a lot of just subliminal damage to the track, and you won't know why. And it's little stuff like that can give you a lot more going in. So I see we got Mod over here too. What's up, brother? We got you here, man. What's going
Yeah,
on?
bro. I'm here.
All right. What's up? Hey, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
We got the fellas up in here. Everybody. Okay.
We pulled an all-nighter. My brain ain't fully here, Khaliq. We pulled an all-nighter working with dancers. I don't know nothing about dancing, but Dre does, but my brain is not really functioning well.
Oh, I feel you, bro. Well, that's all right. We'll put Dre on, because Dre was the one. He said he already did this several times. Come on in here, bro, and tell us maybe what you found. And we're going to get to you and have you play some of the tracks and just point out some stuff, and let's toss it around a bit.
He's done several static mixes. He just started automating. that what was that? What was that Dre? That EQ, the API
Mm-hmm.
B50 whatever B.
Mm-hmm.
He put that on there and added brightness at a moment, like at one of the build-ups, added simply brightness.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I telling your story? I'm never mind.
Yeah,
What I
I
just
was
said.
like, didn't I say put the brother on the camera, man?
My bad, sir. Hello to everybody, Gordon, everybody. I see all y'all in there.
Yeah.
So, all right, here's Dre. Before Khaliq get his, pimping on, pimp slapping and stuff. Let me move on out the way for you, Dre. Here you go.
I'm gonna set it up on the piano.
What do you want to do?
Yeah, all right.
Well, here first, just converse.
I'm just gonna converse then.
Yeah. Just come on in, converse for a second, tell everybody who you are, and then.
Do I look good on camera? I'm cool.
Yeah, man, you cool, man. You real cool. You straight.
All right, cool. Yeah. What's up, y'all? I'm Dre the Most, producer, engineer, cool guy, all that good stuff.
Man, after all this build up, this better be good.
So, what are we talking about?
Okay, so you're in the Pensado Awards mixing competition, right? And you downloaded the tracks, and you had a chance to tackle it a few times to try to build it up and make it the most and the best it can be. And since you're Dre the Most, I know it's going to come out that way, right?
It'll be cool.
So tell us maybe let us know some of the challenges you faced with the track. Some of the ways you overcame some of them, and then you're gonna play some stuff for us, right? We're in studio mode, so it'll sound nice and good.
Ooh, well, I spent a lot of time editing, chopping stuff, taking this out, moving stuff out the way, stuff like that. That's what I spent most of my time on, like chopping out dead space in the vocals, or going to the drums or the tom track and taking out where all the hi-hats and overheads were, messing up everything. Spent a lot of time on doing that stuff. I started with kick.
Wait, before you move to the kick and snare and all that,
yeah.
I'm gonna get back to I've got my big thing that I always hit everybody with for what we're doing here, and that is, what is your why?
My why?
Yeah. So why are you doing all these things? Let's start with it, because everything has a reason, and you're trying to get to a place. This is for everybody else's benefit to realize that you've got to have a reason why, rather than just jumping in and doing stuff. So what is your why?
Before I started mixing the track, I did all the editing to clean everything up a little bit, Make sure.
What does that mean? Clean everything up, and why you got to clean it up? You know the song already?
Make sure, background noise isn't there, hisses, all the extra stuff that when you compress or do anything won't come up in the mix, to make everything more clear and, stable and stuff like that. So I did a lot of that. Also, I took out, they gave you like 2 room drum tracks. I took those like all the way out. They were like really loud and like messing with me. So I muted those all together. The highs were just crazy. High frequencies were like ridiculous. It sounded real, just like messed up. I was like, I took those all the way out. Plus they had I mean, there's like the other tracks there that, I mean, it was kind of like a dub of like some other stuff and stuff like that. Yeah. Took those out. But yeah, cleaned up everything, and then I started leveling stuff accordingly without plugins, just so I can get a good clean start before I start actually mixing.
Yeah. Good
Hold on one second, Khaliq.
Yo.
What I'm going to ask him to do is to take those rooms and pick a section of the song and add the room for a change and just see what he feels about it, because he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. Yeah, that was coming too, because it's the same thing that we did the other time too. When we do something, I'm gonna be playing the devil's advocate here, and like when you do something, I'm gonna challenge you with, well, why are you doing it? Not to say that it's wrong, because nothing's wrong, you know. But the reason why I'm doing it is for everybody's benefit that's watching us and what we do. I'm gonna ask you, well, why did you do that? Okay, well, let's see what the ramifications of doing it are. You know, you have a thought process, and when you do it, did it make it better or did it make it worse? Did it make it stronger or weaker? Whatever. We're gonna view it like that in the microscope. So I'll be hitting you with stuff like that just to so that we can be sure we're covering the bases for everybody. Okay?
Heck yeah.
Sounds
Awesome.
good. All right, all right. So continue on. You were getting ready to talk about the stuff you were doing with the kick and snare and stuff like that.
Okay, so yeah, I started with kick, snare, and then vocals. That's what I always like to start with, me personally. With the kick, I heard it. It was to me it was a little thin. I like my kicks to really knock. You know, so what I did with that was EQ'd a little bit. One thing I always do though is the boosting in the limiters thing. So I'll take a limiter, smash the mess out of a track, and then get my EQ and boost into that, lifting up certain frequencies and stuff. So, I mean, it gave it a cool knock to it. Snare, I did pretty much the same thing, you know, just to start off, you know, get a cool start. And once I got those two, then I went straight to the vocals. Getting the lead right and vocal line in the background and stuff like that.
You use vocal line?
Yeah, I use vocal line.
Cool.
For the background vocals, like on the hook and stuff. Vocal line those, and then little pitch correction on her, slight pitch correction, stuff like that. On the backgrounds, I put some cool effects, reverbs, all types of stuff, man.
What kind of effects did you do?
I did one cool thing that I like to do on background vocals sometimes to make them more melodic and musical. I like put them way in the back with like a reverb and then compress like the mess out of them. Mash them so that they're in the speakers, but you can still hear them. They're still coming out. And then I put auto tune all the way, turned it up all the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like all the way. so instead of being like a voice background, it's more like an instrument now.
Ah, really? Okay. And does that fit the song, the character of the song?
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay. I'm just asking because, you know, that sounds real cool. So I'm very curious to hear it to be sure that you enhanced the character of the song, what was already there. You know, because the one thing that and I'm saying this, and I can't wait to hear it because I know how creative you are, so I think it's probably going to be dope. But what I will be listening for, because that's what everybody else will be listening for, the people that are going to judge this, they're going to be sure that you didn't just take it off and make it your song instead of it being the artist's song.
Yeah,
you know, with a balance, you can do that, but it's always walking a fine line between you taking it over and taking it away from what will, you know, that's all cool, but I ain't feeling that because it ain't where I was trying to go. So I'll be looking for that to point it out if I feel anything like that from, you know, what you did. Okay.
Cool. Every time I hear, I always do this, I go, oh boy. Is this going to work? I always do this. Okay.
Always. What it's called for.
Yeah. I know. I hear you.
Little do it, you know.
Yeah.
Got my boy 8-5.
Well, okay, we'll continue on, bro. And then at any point when you feel like you want to play something for us, feel free.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I could just start with kick snare right now, and vocals show you how everything is.
Let's hear the whole track of what you got so we can hear things in context, and then let us hear the stuff that you did, okay?
Okay, cool. So how do I do this?
Just press play.
Just press play?
Turn it up.
Awesome.
Play and turn it up. Put your thumbs up and let me know if you can hear it, like, once he plays it, Khaliq.
Okay.
You need it louder?
No, I think it's cool.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday. stuck in a cab on a 38. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at command. Check my phone. Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you missed this late night. Wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime, lovers bring me on the east side. Let's forget everything. Get to the spot, find you leaning on the front door. Fitted jeans, sports hat, and an olive t-shirt. Grab my hand, we stepped inside. Whisper soft, it's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a front view. The band on stage and my friends swaying side to side. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers play. Me on the east side, let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers play. Me on the east side, let's forget everything. Come on, kiss me. The music's right. Let's dance free tonight in New York City. It's a springtime lovers play. Me on the east side, let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers play. Me on the east side, let's forget everything. In New York City, in New York City.
Okay, cool. Dre, do you have the demo there, the reference?
No.
You don't have it?
So I have to pull it up.
Where's it from?
I would have to pull it up off the internet.
If I get a ticket, who's paying for that shit?
Do you have the internet on there, on that computer where you can call it up?
Yes, I do. You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, go to Indaba and just go play it for a second. Now, and while you're doing that, anybody have any insights that they want to share for what they heard? Anybody?
Yeah, Khaliq.
Yes.
They weren't playing it directly, right? The song we were playing it through the air, was that it?
Yeah. They were playing it through the air. They weren't, so we weren't hearing it in stereo or anything. It's just in the room.
Yeah, so it's kind of really hard to be fair about it. You know what I'm saying? Because you just get most of the bass and whatever highs can cut through that. You can't really make an assessment.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is why I'm gonna have him play the reference to see if you know what the difference is.
Have you done a bounce of it yet, Trey? Put it like upload a bounce to Dropbox so you can drop it to them so that they can hear it.
Okay. I don't have a Dropbox.
I have one. All right.
Yeah, that'll be cool for later on to see. Couple observations.
I will get it to you guys. He'll do whatever you guys finna do, have him do, and then I'll go when he's talking to you guys and upload it to Dropbox.
Sounds good, man.
Awesome.
Couple of observations that I'm curious, so when we can hear it more in the real context of what it is, I'm curious to hear what the instruments are doing. It sounded very drum centric to me, you know, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So I'm curious to hear what the instrumental support stuff for that. And it also sounded, I was missing some of the vocals. There's a lot of vocals on here. I mean, I could hear that they were in there. By the way, the tuning and all that, I heard what you did, so that helped and everything and all that. But I'm thinking that you may need to balance out some of those vocals against each other, because I couldn't hear some of the counter rhythm parts that she had and support harmonies and everything surrounding those vocals. Some of those vocals were meant to be kind of a big block, a massive thing, and interplaying off of it, and it sounded more like a little more solo vocalist to me. So I want to be sure, so I want you to play the reference just to be sure that what I'm hearing is not a result of playing it like the way we're playing it.
For sure. Drop it. Yeah.
Yeah, as a point to make, I kept my room. At first, I was going to leave that for the drum tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I played around with it a little bit, and then I decided to keep it Khaliq. So it seemed to add some character to the drums for me.
Yeah. That's what my assessment was, that I would try to work from there. I actually started with the room mics out though, like Bill did, you know, because it adds some character, but I didn't want that distraction when I was trying to get to it. So I took the room mics out and then snuck them in a little bit, because they do add a little bit of a character, which was kind of cool. I like the characteristics that it was adding, but not too much of it. When they're just up and level and you hear all room, it's just too much.
Yeah.
And you lose it. But
that's what I was going to ask Don. That's what I was going to ask Don. When you say you used them, how loud did you use them?
Because yeah, that's what. Because what Khaliq just said, what I did was I noticed that they were kind of bright, and it was not as, you know, I don't know if I want to say clean, but they didn't sound as pleasant, you know, as I would have liked. So I used the plug-in to clean up the noise, you know, and try to kind of smooth it out. And then I lightly compressed it, spread both the tracks out left and right, and then I just, you know, I pushed it up a little bit. It wasn't a big jump in the fader, you know what I mean? Because I didn't want it to be that much. But
here's another idea: just use it for color. Skip all that. Just bring them up, bring the faders up a real slight bit, and still make another drum room with an actual, you know, software drum room.
Yeah, that's,
you know what I'm saying. Don't try to use those for rooms. Just use them for color.
Yeah. That's probably the best compromise. That's what I would do, is use that as the basis to feed something that sounds a little bit better, and also controlling the frequency response in there, because like you said, some of the stuff is not pleasant sounding the way it was in there, but there's a characteristic in there. So just get it in there, and, you know, set up your your EQs in a way where you can maybe dip out any super offending, resonant frequencies. But then I would shape the bottom and the top with filters, like as a bandpass, to just kind of put it in the area it needs to be, and feed it into another reverb that will make that, become part of the kit and sound like it was naturally recorded like that. Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Yeah, go ahead, Dre.
It's 1 a.m.
Oh, turn it down a little bit. Okay.
On Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at command. Check my phone, did you get the address? It's so nice out, it'd be sad if you missed this. And I wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a spring from the spring. Meet on the east side. Let's forget. If I find you leaving on the front door, fitted jeans, sports hat, and an olive t-shirt, grab my hand. We step inside, whisper soft. It's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a fun view of the band on stage and my friends swaying side to side in New York City.
Hey Dre, hold up for a second. Hey Dre, hold up for a second. Hold up for a second. Okay, cool. I got an idea. Okay, yeah, that told me a lot. One of the things I want to do too, and Bill, you can tell me this. He needs to go into studio mode as well, doesn't he? For it to not have those little dropouts,
His
right?
computer isn't even connected to Google Plus is the point. His computer, we're hearing it through the speakers through another microphone.
I know that, but I'm just saying even his room mic that's picking it up should be in studio mode instead of voice mode.
That's
correct?
not going to help. Just plug it into Google Plus.
Oh, okay. I don't think they're able to do that. I asked Ahmad about that earlier.
In that case, they need to do what he said, which is send you a file and have you play it.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, but still, that playing that back told me a lot too. Okay, you should go back and revisit. You're losing the harmonic character a bit, you know, because even as bad as that mix was, and even with it playing the way we're hearing it, just being picked up by your microphone there in the room, I can still hear the chordal characteristics of the guitars, the pianos, the chords of the vocal harmony being a little thicker, and the interplay that they had.
Yeah.
So you're missing a little bit of that in what you have there. So maybe go back and revisit how to surround what you've got with some more some more harmonic depth as well. Because yeah, that's what I felt was kind of missing, and I wasn't sure if it was the playback that we were dealing with, or whether it was lacking a little bit. But now hearing that rough mix, and we know the rough mix is not ideal for sure, but I could still hear some of the stuff in there. So that means I think you need to put a little more back into whatever you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yep. I know exactly what I did.
Okay, yeah. Because I mean, now, here's another thing, too, because you're hearing a couple of us talk about the approach with the drums. You took the opposite approach of starting with the kick and snare. The approach that I took was, when I listened to it, and like I said, I haven't even mixed it yet, but what I'm hearing where the most power comes from naturally. See, I'm a guy that I do things old school, organically, like the way I learned in the studio, So I learned in the studio when we got stuff going, you should be able to walk into the studio. We had 2-inch tape back in the day. We put the 2-inch tape on and put the faders up at 0, and bam, the stuff should sound good. If it was recorded decently, it didn't even have to be perfect, but if it was recorded decently, when you put it up, it should already kind of give you what you need. Then you go ahead and go to the channels and put on your EQ, compressors, all that stuff like that. But without doing anything, it should kind of be there and give you what's going on. So the first thing that I did with this track is I listened to everything in there. I didn't even adjust it. That was our first exercise. But the reason why I did that as an exercise is because it lets me hear the strengths and weaknesses that are already inherent in the track. So once I assess that, now going down to the drums and wanting to know what's going on with the drums, and I pointed this out the other day, the drums, they are not ideally recorded. Of course, we know that we found some of the problems, but one of the things that is in the drum kit when you hear them all together and you listen as a kit. So you got to remember, drums are meant to be heard as a drum kit. When you walk into a room, you don't hear separate kicks, separate snares, separate cymbals and all that. We don't listen like that. We hear a drum kit. So we got to remember that. So when that kit is put up and when I checked it out, all I was hearing was like toms, floor toms, a whole kit, a whole drum kit, rack toms. But I'm seeing a track that says rack, and then I'm looking at it in minuscule waveforms with occasional hits, leakage, and all that. And when I listen to it, it still doesn't have the characteristic of the toms. Then the snare right next to it has even more than the mic that's labeled as that. Plus, we're hearing like 3 different toms in there, so they're not reflected in the recording. So what I did was, Bill and I discussed this back and forth, and Bill did a different variation on it too. What I tried too is I tried separating out the hits that I could hear, so I tried finding, okay, let me see if I can find all the high toms and put them on their own track, extract them out. Let me see if I can find out where that mid tom is between it, extract that out, and where the floor tom is. That did not work. I mean, it kind of worked and it can work. And when we go over to my Pro Tools, I'll show you. In fact, I'll go over and show you right now. The problem that I found with that approach was that the drums still had too much leakage and the other things, and was too overrepresented in some of the other mics. So even when I stripped those little things out and everything, it wasn't really given the definition that I wanted. Because like I said, you go back to your why. Why did I want to bring those things out? Well, I wanted more definition out of those toms. I potentially wanted to tighten up the drum kit a bit and everything. So thinking that I'll do some stuff to tighten up the kick and snare, maybe using some gates or going in and editing or however I get to it. I was thinking that I might do this. But I had to reassess my thought process when listening and trying a few of those things and saying, man, this is going to be a lot of work. And at the end of the day, is it really going to get me what I want naturally? The conclusion I came to was no. So coming back and rethinking, I was like, okay, well, let me listen to the whole drum kit again as a kit. Now, as a kit, okay, it ain't recorded ideally, but I'm hearing everything. I'm hearing the toms in there. That's part of that groove. We mentioned that the toms are, it has that little Indian kind of groove that's going on. It has a little motion, the little pickup kind of things, and a little syncopated rhythms and things like that. A lot of stuff going on in there. So we don't want to lose that. What I feel that you did with your approach is you stripped out the motion by going too much with the kick and snare. And like Ma'at was saying, when you say, I always do things like that, that's the danger. Because this particular song, I don't feel calls for that. I think it calls for an overall drum kit with all those toms, with that nasty room sound and all that, and make that stuff work for you as opposed to stripping it out and trying to get a clean kit. The clean kit does not exist on this track. So what we have to make it work for us. Got a ton of leakage, okay? Ton of leakage. I'm gonna make that leakage work for me in a way. I need to glue it together, and there's a couple of things I do. So with me saying that, in fact, let me go over and just show you a couple of things. Let me go to my screen share for a second and find what I wanted to show you. All right, let's go to this one. Okay, so you can see my Pro Tools now, I think. Yeah, I think you can see that. Let me close this out over here. Okay, and in fact, let me open this up and expand that a little bit more. So when we got the kick and snare tracks here, and one of the first things I started doing, well, forgetting about the kick and snare track, first of all, talking about the overheads. The overheads is where the this is where the whole drum kit lies. And what I ended up doing with this was I took the overheads left and overheads right, and then I ran it to a sub mix here. And then I'll tell you what I did, but we got this is just the overhead solo. Okay, so as you hear, there's plenty of that floor tom and the rack tom, and you can hear that there's different tones of the tom, so that tells me we got more than one tom. even though we got one mic that says rack tom. And then we hear that floor tom thing and some of those accents are more towards the right hand side, overhead right. You can see this meter peeking up a little bit more over there. So that's a danger zone, first of all, because that means that the sound can start leaning, the groove can start leaning. So I got to be aware of that. Whole lot of stuff over here. It's out of balance. Okay, so I got to think about that. And I actually, if you notice on these pan knobs, because I had them pan hard left and right to listen to them, it's just too far out and it's out of balance. So I pulled them in a little bit as opposed to 100 on each side. I pulled them in to 80 so that we can still hear the stereo thing, and we'll do some other things potentially to bring it in. And like I said, I have this, all those drums are on this submixing. Now the reason why I did this, first of all, is the first part of my approach is to go back to old school, the way that I learned and worked. Okay, so I would have this on a 2-inch tape, for example, first of all. That's the first thing I thought about, because we got these overheads sounding a little nasty, a little harsh, and especially when we get to that chorus part and the cymbals start coming in and everything. So what I did was I put a tape machine on here. This is how I work. So the first thing I did was put a tape machine on the individual tracks. First I tried the tape machine over on the stereo track, and I'll show you what else happened. But what I did was really went to the individual tracks and said, this is where they were, and put a tape machine on each one of them tracks, and then I bypass it, and then we're gonna so what the now let me put this back here and close this up. So I'm using the tape just like what I did when I was coming up to help glue these tracks together. Now watch, when I'm going to bypass them again. Let's close these out. In fact, I'll just show you. I'll put it back in. Do you hear all that whole thing gluing and kind of rounding out? This is what a tape machine will do. Listen to the cymbals now. They were so nasty and edgy. This kind of smooths them out a bit. You know, the cymbals are over compressed and all that. So the tape machine is adding some tape compression, but it's actually smoothing and rounding out that nasty edginess that we had before. And then I did one final thing over here. I used the ATR for this, which is the Ampex, which is a 2-inch machine. I'm sorry, a half-track machine, 2-track machine. But I went over to the Studer multi-track for this thing here, because, you know, this is where I'd be coming from for this stereo thing, and took that off. Now you hear the drums? They really came to life then. A lot more glue. Listen to the kick drum and listen to those toms. Let me take it off for a second. That's without the tape machine. But I still got it on the individual tracks, but when I put it on there, really it glues them together. And you hear those cymbals that are all over modulated and everything. Well, this kind of smooths them out a bit and makes them work. Instead of working against me, they're working for me. I'm making the distortion and the over modulation and all that work for me in the characteristics that it's adding to there. This is just from thinking in terms of the way that I came up, just running it through the tape machine makes stuff sound better. I'm not doing any EQ and stuff like that yet. I just wanted to show you that there's little stuff that you can do right in the beginning to immediately beef up this sound that you're working with. Now, and this is just the overheads. Now I'm gonna add in like the kick and snare and let's do that for a second. That's the kick in. Now, if I mute that. See, so I'm using that kick to punch. So what I would potentially do to make that punch through, what I'm thinking in terms of, I'm thinking for this drum thing to be solid, is I got to use the overheads and the room and all that as the basic character, because that's what's giving me the spread, the stereo information. And then I fill it in with the kick and snare. Fill it in. You know, do you see my logic behind that now? That'll get me a more powerful result that still has life, still has some ambience. And what this kick would do when I put that in there and punching, you know, that still add more. We got the leakage and all that, so I would probably put a noise gate on it or something like that. But what I did for this kick, and check this out, just listen, because I put another ATR Ampex machine on here for this kick drum. Watch, and I'll kick it in. You hear that kick? Let me take it off. No, let me put it back on. So can you hear the weight that the kick drum got from just running through a tape machine? You know, and you can go on these tape machines, you can if you know enough about it, you can tweak how the tape machine is set up. We used to have to do this when we were aligning the machine. So you can go in here and tweak, you know, how the frequency response is going, the bias and all that. I wouldn't, if you don't know what's up, I wouldn't worry about it, because they got some great presets and stuff in here too and everything. Something as simple as that can start making your drums come together to have a more solid groove from just that as a foundation. Then once you've got that, and it's suddenly your drum sound got bigger and fatter and richer and not as irritating, but it has some kind of character. Then we start thinking about, okay, so now I need some EQ. So on that kick drum, of course, I would have to EQ and filter out the unneeded frequencies, but still make it have the weight. You know, I already decided, me and Bill discussed this before, as far as what did we think should carry the low end, the kick drum or the bass. And in this particular song, I think the kick drum should carry that weight and down there and everything, and the bass is more like propulsion and accent, especially it's the lower end. It should be thought of as the upper end of the kick drum here, but the lower end of there's another guitar part that's playing in there, that's playing the eighth notes, and the bass can be the lower. You can think of that as the lower frequency extension of the guitar part. You know, the guitar's playing the upper mids and all that, and the bass is the lower weight of that part of it. But it's not going down solo where it's infringing on the low end of this kick drum. You know, so when you start making those combinations like that, it's just like when you're working with samples or whatever, and you're doing sample layering and stacking and everything. You find the right things to hit the right frequencies and all that. Okay, and then another thing I did. You know, and like I said, I'm just toying with this, so I could go through a million different things and maybe find a better tape simulator than these. I just kind of pulled them up because these are, you know, the big boys that are the main ones. But the other thing that I did was we talked about the room sound. So let's put that in and see what's up. And I just, you know, I pulled this down and just snuck it in. So I'm going to play it. Solo these. Let's sneak that in. You hear when this is snuck in because of the delay of where the microphone's being out in the room. If you put in too much, you can hear a delay, right? It's out of phase. It's also distorted, like you were saying. So this is going to be character. I can make that distortion work for me. See, take it out. Because right now, with it out, it might be cleaner, but this adds a little character. And it's not EQ'd yet, but I can see when I get some EQ in here, I can make this work for me. So just a hint of it where I can take it in and out. Just a hint of it. And, you know, I can think about, for finding the levels and everything, I can think about, you know, getting it in a general place, and then I do my EQ to sculpt it to get out of the way, the frequencies that are bothering me or whatever. But it's adding character. So, you know, I put these things in here like that to just gradually build it up. Then the last thing that has part of the character Let me see. I think let's check this. Let's see. Now we got that snare. Let me mute that. So let's listen to it. What's going on in the overheads? Now we hear a lot of splashing. Like I said, that's from them cymbals. That's the way they were recorded. So I have to decide if am I gonna make that work for me. Am I also gonna maybe dip out any frequencies up there that's messing with me? I might need to dip them out and then regain the sparkle that I need up at the top. You know, I've also got over compression there and everything, so I might want to do something that's gonna do upward expansion or something like that to add dynamic sound back in. But actually I'm not worried about this. I'm thinking about that these are possibilities if I really felt that I need it, because there's all cost to everything. So right now, dealing with what I have naturally, what I would do is simply use what I have naturally and make the things that would normally seem to be detrimental, make them start working for me. This thing has you know, breaking up and noise and over modulation and all these other things that are in there, irritating frequencies and all that. I can just, you know, Bill was mentioning, you can use de-essers to grab things on when certain parts come out to capture that and smooth them out. You can use dynamic EQs to get it so that and make it react to certain frequency ranges, so that just certain hits trigger it to do its thing and it doesn't affect other things. You know, you might want to do this is broken out to a drum stereo drum track too. So, you know, right now I have the UBK1 on here, but I just threw it on just to see what it sounds like. It might not be the final thing, but I'm gonna process the stereo to really make that kick out there, you know, the whole kit. So one other thing I want to show you here on this snare drum too. Let me mute this for a second. I'm gonna unmute this. So there's several problems I hear in that section. So one thing that I did on this, that I got to switch to the other window, and this window share won't pick it up when I switch in Pro Tools. It keeps you on this window. So I explained to you what I did was basically, you know, what I did for the snare part is, okay, there's several distinct sections. So for that part where the snare comes in, that's, you know, that. So all those little accent parts like that and everything, I'm making sure that they have their own track. So I duplicated the snare track, and then the other stuff where the toms are coming through and other little things, I pulled them out to a different track and used them for little accent parts. And then that build-up part, that's the toms, I pulled that off of the snare track and just added it to the rack track so that it could do its thing and help that build-up be a little more dynamic. Because that's supposed to be a build-up, but it's really kind of flat when it goes from verse into chorus. The transition is not, you know, dynamic enough. So anyway, the snare track now only represents that part there. So what I would want to do, I'm hearing some frequency ringing. I'll hear some low-end stuff that's in there, of course, from the leakage from the kick drum and some of the other stuff that need to be filtered out. There's a little boxiness sound to it. I would want to bring out a little more of the crack and stuff like that. So EQ, there's a lot of different things to do, and I probably do it in stages. I'd also want to add some compression on here, but I probably want to do that with different things in stages. But I want to show you this one compressor here. You may not be, in fact, I don't think you can see it. Darn, that's right, I forgot. I've got the DBX 160 by Universal Audio, their emulation of the DBX 160 on here. And what I'll do is I'll let you hear it. Unfortunately, the way the Hangouts work, it's not showing, you can't see what I'm seeing. I can see both the mixer window and this plugin, but the Hangout thing only shows you the mixer window and doesn't show you what's current. Maybe they'll fix that in the future. But what I want to show you is I thought about this particular compressor because of my old school experience of growing up and knowing that this compressor was heavily used to achieve a certain sound on a snare drum that no other compressor, I won't say no other compressor can get, but other ones have a harder time, whereas this one just right out the box does a certain thing to the snare that just seems to work. You know, it's certain other instruments too, but I thought about this. Now, I may not end up using it, but what I want to show you is so you can hear what this compressor does on a snare real quick. So I'm gonna play this and bypass it, and then I'm gonna in fact, let me mute the snare. I mean here, and I'm over compressing this so that you can hear what this thing does. Let me take it off. Now I want you to listen when I took the threshold down, and I'm gonna put it way on there so that you can hear how this compressor crunches. And I want you to listen to the attack and listen to what this thing does. The 160. Okay, that's right. Now I'm gonna put it on. Now listen to the very beginning. You hear that little on the beginning of the attack, that little. You hear how that does? Let me back it off a bit and let you hear it again. I'm overdoing it so you can hear what it is. This is without it on now. You hear that? It's almost like that little pop sound in there, how that compressor responds. And also listen to how now one thing that you hear as well when you use a compressor like this, you're going to hear the cymbals pumping and things like that. So like I said, I'm just overdoing it to kind of show you how that adds a little thing to that crack and everything, but you wouldn't want to do it that much. I'm really over compressing now. I'm going like almost 10-to-1 just so that you can hear it ratio, and then I'm the threshold, I'm just letting it crunch in where it's catching everything. So I would definitely be a little more delicate to fit it in there, but this can enhance that snare sound. It can make it like pop through so that the attacks on it, it's like that little tick sound in the beginning. That's a good compressor to make that come through. And it also, yeah.
I got a quick question. Do you actually have the DBX open right now?
Yes, I do.
All right. Try putting your screen share on desktop instead of Pro Tools.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Desktop might work instead. Huh? Okay, let's try that. Let's go back here. And desktop. Oh, I'm not seeing it in the desktop.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's going to go back after you go back.
Once I go back
right.
Okay.
Once you go.
Okay, let's try this and see if I go to, okay, I'm on
Pro. And now go to Pro Tools.
Yeah, I'm on Pro Tools now. Can you see it?
Lovely. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Okay. See, Bill's a smart guy. That's why we got him on here. Yeah. Okay. That's cool then. Okay, that solves that problem. Now, like I said, I'm just putting this on here so that you know you can actually. Okay. So I want you to hear that. Just hear what that's doing at the tip. And look at the meter over here too, because what that does also is those little ghost notes that come in between. It can help bring and even those out, because those are important. There's a lot of ghost notes in his snare part as well that you don't want to lose when you're doing your mix, you know. Whereas when you just do a mix and put the wrong compressor on here without thinking about how you want to even some of these things out, you might miss some of those ghost notes. Now, that being said, because this snare is so you know, out there, a lot of different things in the way it was recorded or whatever, I would definitely use more than one compressor on this is in a multi-stage. One thing would handle how the attack happens. Another thing would handle how the stretch happens of the snare and some of the other things. And plus, I would want to make sure that I wasn't hitting this so hard that it was making the cymbals pump too much. and start not complementing the groove and start blending in with the overheads and getting super over sizzly. I'd probably also, the other possibility is putting a gate on this to definitely make just the snare hits pop and then it gates out, so that we don't have all that extra stuff. But is any of that stuff helpful to you guys?
Yeah, that's all real helpful.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I can't go back here on the desktop. Let me go out of screen share for a second, because when you think about, okay, let's get out of here and back to me. Okay, so when you think about all these little things, and like I said, this is to get the most power that you can before you start digging in with a whole lot of other stuff. I'm thinking in terms of, like I said, using my experience of how I know signal flow is, what characteristics can be there and everything. This is long before you start adding a bunch of other stuff, and then you get one or two things to get in, but still get the intention that you want. I know that them drums need major evening out. There's a lot of little subtleties going on. I know them cymbals are very problematic. I know the rooms, some of the resonant frequencies, a lot of stuff would have to go on in there. But keeping in mind with all the stuff that's going on, how do I get the most bang for the buck out of these drums to make them sound big and fat? And so the first thing that I thought of is, well, treat them first of all like you did back in the day when you were always tracking drums. Put that analog component in. That'll help smooth out some things, because that's just what we did. This is why we drove tape machines harder, because we knew that tape compression can help smooth some things over too, with and gel and glue some things together as well. So when you think about all these little things and using them, they can really help you not do too much too soon. Then you can always keep adding little things on. I would definitely go for more, once I cleaned up all these things, made those drums more punchy and present naturally, then I'd do it frequency wise too, because there's a big danger up top with those cymbals. The drums need to have some kind of sparkle, but every time you try to bring some of that back, it's going to bring some of that nastiness that's going on up there with those overcompressed drums. This is why I say I would think in terms of making what's there work for me instead of against me, and find a good compromise where I can hear it and it sounds like, oh, well, they meant to do that. That's how they processed it, and when you arrive there, it's really good. Anybody have any questions for me?
Khaliq,
Yes.
this is Gordon.
Hey, Gordon.
I guess one thing that comes to mind is with the DBX 160 is like losing the transients on the snare, because there's a there's a real hard snare hit at the end, right on the closing part of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually boosted that snare hit up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what would be the main purpose of putting the 160 on the snare? Is it to get more body from the snare sound?
Well, the 160 does several things. That's why I made you. I wanted you to listen to what it was doing to the attack, because that's, first of all, it has automatic attack and release characteristics in there, and the way that it was set up. See, the 160 was the go-to for snare, on a lot of records for a lot of the top engineers and everything. That's why I wanted you to hear what it does. It does something on that snare, so you won't lose the attack on that. The exact reason why the 160 was used is because it actually enhances the attack and can enhance the groove and some of those other things, just the way it's set up, the way it auto releases. The key is getting the threshold and compression ratio right, so that it doesn't overly do it. So I was just showing you guys and overdoing it so that you could hear what it's doing, but I would never have pressed it that far to do that much. And in fact, like I said, for that snare, I would actually do a multi-stage compression. I would use two different ones to cover two different functions, you know. But if I wanted that little blip part on the beginning, that 160, I know would get it to me. And then if I wanted to stretch the snare out with another compressor, I would use something after that and probably have an EQ in between, you know. Does that help you understand my thought process behind that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like the 160s, the DBX 160 as opposed to the 165 or the 160X and all them, they all did different things. But that DBX 160 had a characteristic that was the first go-to reach for compressor for a whole lot of the top engineers and a lot of the hit records that we have heard over the course of the years. Just for
Are there some other instruments that you would really reach for that compressor on?
Yeah, the 160 was used on a lot of things. It's been used on vocals many times. I use it on guitars. It's been used on bass. Just depends on what the song calls for. So in this case, the reason why I thought of the 160, and you know, I have a lot of other choices as well. So like I said, that may not end up being the final thing. But I started thinking in terms of me going back to, you know, what I did when I had to track, and I've tracked all kinds of stuff. I've tracked R&B, I've tracked jazz, I've tracked rock, I've tracked metal, all kinds of different stuff, you know, different styles and everything. So I know what you decide to pick up and use to make each style come out is very important. And that was a particular one that I know that I would use regularly on a live drum kit leaning towards rock or pop rock type of sound, you know. So this is why I thought about that, because it does that thing to the attack on the beginning when you set it right that'll make it pop but still set just right. It'll stretch it out and can give you some length if you want it. It'll pick up ghost notes and set them in the proper way if you set it right. A lot of different little things, you know. So that's why I chose that. I would definitely use it on you know, I would consider using it on, you know, if the vocal I thought needed the type of attack and release that had, I would use it. But I would, you know, for this particular song, I would not use that on the song. But I might use that. That's something that I might reach for on a guitar. You know, I haven't played with the guitars yet to really see other than just kind of listen to them. But my mind is thinking about that is because the DBX 160 was definitely used on the guitars a lot too back in the day. You know. So let me see what else would I do. Well, that's just one of the things. Go ahead.
Oh, so I have a question. So the example that you just played for us, did you already do any timeline or phase aligning with the drums, or is that just how they came straight off? That's how they came. I didn't do a thing because I wanted to show and demonstrate that when you're stuck with what you're stuck with, sometimes just making it work, it works, you know, and that's why I wanted to put the tape machine on and stuff like that to show you that the drums could get fatter and get punchier and everything else without even reaching for EQ and compression right away. If you think it out first for what you're trying to do, you can do a lot to step it up. Because this is about a combination of little things adding up. So to get these drums powerful and punchy and in your face, that was the first thing I thought about. When I think about the tape machines, I'm going to use that on key instruments. You know, I'm probably going to use it on the guitars. I probably won't use it on the bass just because I want to have contrast in sound, you know. The bass was recorded low and however it was recorded, well, to me, I don't want it to compete with the kick drum because I think the drums need to drive this, and then I think the guitar is more of the engine. So I don't want it to compete. So the bass, I will defer the usage of any type of tape simulator on that until later. If I determine that I might need it later, but that won't immediately jump on it. But that might be one of the first things I'm thinking about trying for the guitars, for example, and maybe key guitars, you know. I may use it, for example, on the
on the crunch guitar, but not use it on the acoustic. You know, I may experiment and see what's up, but my mind is thinking now for contrast. The acoustic, I like it, so I want it to be nice and crisp and everything. So I don't necessarily want a tape machine to round it off, but a tape machine might thicken it up too. So I might need it, maybe not. I'll have to see how the groove starts coming together and make the decisions from there. But right now, when we talked on the hangout number 2 about digging in and finding the core groove elements, this is what I'd be looking for to find out what's going to make this song rock the hardest with the least amount without me having to do a lot right away, because I can always make it better when I add all the other stuff. But if I make it jam hard now with all that little bit of stuff, it really can come together, you know. And I wanted to point out one other thing too. Let me show you. What's up, Dave? Dave Hampton is on here now with us. I wanted to point out one other thing. So I'm gonna go back to the screen share real quick and show you guys. Okay, let me go back to the desktop. Thanks, Bill. I didn't even think about that, so that's good. Okay, so I just wanted to show you on. I got these tom tracks that I switched out. And in fact, let me go to the other one, go back to screen share, and then I'm going to go to the other one to show you the waveforms. Hold on, stand by, guys. Let me pick, because this is where I start, what I started to do, and then, okay, I changed my mind here. Okay, so, oh, you know what? I'm tripping. I didn't have to do that. Yeah, okay, let me go back. Yeah, let me go back for a second and do this one more time, because I can just do it the way Bill showed me. The only time I got to worry about all that craziness is when I'm back here. Okay, go back to Pro Tools. Okay, so can you guys see my Pro Tools now and see the waveform view, the edit screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Now, in fact, let me close out this 160. We don't need that anymore. But what I was talking about earlier on the toms is where are they at? Oh, up here. So this is what I did originally to try it, to splitting out the toms and stuff like that, you know. So what I did was I took the snare track and the rack tom track, and then I doubled it, you know, I duplicated it a bunch of different times to try to represent all the different toms that I had. So we've got tom 1 here, then tom 2, and then floor tom 3. And these were some of the hits that I thought that I had identified. I actually, now the way I would normally do it if I wanted to go through all the editing things is I would mute these other 2, because this is where the tom hits are happening. But right now I've got them on all the tracks, you know. So I would normally mute, excuse me, let me solo those and let you guys hear. I would normally mute or just delete, because these are the duplicate waveforms from the snare track and the rack track. So I would delete them and just have the one thing coming in. So that's where they up here. So those are the little tom parts coming through. So now you see I kind of did it here. See, I kind of did it there, but what I found when I started breaking it out and trying to match them to what's going on in the overheads and position them and all that, but it still wasn't giving me enough return on time investment. This is going to be a lot of work. This is just the first verse here. And I was just like, I don't want to go through all this and and deal with that through this whole song. You know, now if I was getting paid for this to mix this or something like that, I may take the time and all that, because, you know, it could make it better. But one thing I want you to notice is what's happening is when that's all coming in, it's still enhancing. In fact, let me take this stuff off for a second. It's enhancing. Oh, let me mute that bass for a second. Where are you at? Oh, we got the kick. You see that I told you on that drum build, which is here. Well, I took that from the snare track, and that's actually doubled here to get it a little bit louder, and then I probably process one a little bit different, make a little guts here. Then there's a snare hit on the end, so I left it in the tom track, and I've still got it on the snare, so that last dun 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 crack, you know, and then we go into the chorus. So all these little things and thinking in terms of how I would build this up and everything. But normally, if I had the time and wanted to go through all the effort, I would break these out and make these are accents. But it's the same thing that's leaking through some of these other tracks, and they're all coming in on these overhead and room tracks here, you know. So let me see, put that back in for a second. Let me go back. See, so I don't know if you can hear with the overheads, and I know I'm going a lot on this. We're going to get to vocals in a minute, but I'm going a lot on this because I want you guys to see that there's a lot of stuff in here you can make happen. But this is the overheads, and you hear clearly all the toms and everything. So what I'm doing with these ones I separate out is just using them to be little accent pushers, because we already got them in the overheads. So I'm just making sure that they push a little bit more on each accent. See, and on this build up, because they're in here, but that, you see that build up was, you know, it's so squashed or whatever, non-dynamic. I wanted these extra ones to come in to help that build up, so it gets a little bit louder. Like I said, I'd probably process it, maybe put a little grime on it to make it just sound a little more exciting when it's going into this chorus. Okay, so that's how I approach, you know, little things like that to help build it in. And like I said, this is even before doing any other processing. It's like if I can get this big sounding, just the raw materials, then when I start EQing and compressing and putting the effects and setting things in the place they are, it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is what you want to do when it's time for you to submit this, is you want yours to sound bigger than everybody else's. You know, you don't want it to necessarily have all the tips and tricks that you've learned without it making a difference in the overall thing compared to the next guy who took the time to go in and make sure that the groove was fat and thick and happening and represented and everything. So this Dre, like when you were playing your track, and we're going to get back to you too, I didn't mean to jack it from you so much. We're going to get back to your track, and I want to help you try to improve yours a little bit more now because you've been working on it so much. The whole key is in those drums. So one of the big mistakes that is just my opinion, you know, but you can still get there, but just be aware of it. If you're going to start from the kick and snare on this song and everything, just be aware that all the other information is in those overheads. And if you strip that out and you lose that, you're going to lose a whole lot of guts that this song has, that it was built on. You know, you can clearly hear it in the, keep going back to the reference mix. The reference mix, even though it isn't a wonderful mix itself, it still tells you a lot for the stuff that's in there. Okay, and with that, if anybody doesn't have any questions, or if they do, hit me now, because I'm going to go back and show you a couple of the things that I noticed on the vocals. Everybody good? Cool, cool. Oh, I want to show you one other thing, too. The bass, oh Lord, the bass came in, oh wait a minute. The bass came in on this song and it was so low and noisy. But one of the first things that I did, this is the bass track, And you know, when you first saw it, it was so low. It was like it looked the waveform kind of looked down like that or lower, you know. So one of the first things that I did to just see what's up was I took the bass volume and just pushed it up to see how it sounded. What's the bass sound like? The bass track. Okay, so the bass track, it's there, it's solid, it sounds decent. A couple things need enhancing, but bottom line is it was just recorded too low. So I just took this track, and then I went to my Audio Suite plugins and Pro Tools, and then I just went to a gain plugin and had it look at how much, you know, how much dynamic range it was taking up, you know, as far as how loud it was getting at the highest peak and everything to see what kind of headroom I had. And then I just boosted it up 10 dB. I thought that was a good compromise. So right now this bass, without doing anything, I can just let it play and put it at 0 now. And we can hear bass without. Now, of course, when I put it up, it may have brought up room noise and all that, but when I listen to it solo, it's fine. So it's fine, you know. It's not. I don't hear a bunch of wishing room noise from noise being boosted with the gain that I did. So one of the first things, an easy way to get that, first of all, to give you some more power down there, you know, real easy solution without having to go through a ton of stuff right away, because what I'm going to do is come back to that later on and sculpt that out with EQ to keep it out of the way of the kick drum, keep it out of the way of what's going on, the low end frequency stuff in the overheads, and keep it out of the way of, like, we got an acoustic guitar that got body resonance, so I don't want all those things fighting against each other. We've got some thick guitars that are playing like the you know, the distortion parts and everything, so I've got to make them still maintain having body and weight but not get into mud down there with all that. So this is one of the first things, is just simply turn it up, you know, by taking the gain up and optimizing that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go down here. Let's take a look and listen to some of these vocals. On the last one that we do in a couple of days, I'm going to get in and show you some stuff that I would think about for the guitars, for the keyboards and stuff like that. But I'm not going to do that today, you know, because I want you to be aware that there's a lot of little stuff in these vocals that I want you to be aware of, and they could turn out to be gotchas. Okay, so let's go here. Let me see. Okay, I got this at 0, but I'm gonna just turn it up so we can hear. Oh, yeah. Turn them all up. Stuck in a cab. And turn this up some more.
I'm 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at our command. Check my
I don't have all the vocals in.
Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you missed this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. Find you leaning on the front door, fitted jeans, sports hat, and an olive t-shirt. Grab my hand, we step inside. Whisper soft, it's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a front view of the band on stage, and my friends swaying side to side. In New York City.
that effect? Tuning issues like a mug. Attack and release issues like was mentioned earlier. So as you can see, we've got a smorgasbord of challenges here, and that's all. They're just challenges. No big deal. But knowing what you got here, I always like to start with it. And all I'm doing right now is I haven't tried to put anything in any real place other than just kind of parts that I know that should be spread out a bit. I just did hard left and hard right, or maybe brought it in a little bit or whatever. But no real method to the madness. To go back to Bill's thing for now, I'm not that far ahead to worry about that yet, because what I'm trying to hear is get these out the way. I know they need to be in there. I need to know they need to be wide and big and whatever. But what's going to determine where their final placement is for me is how they fit in with some of the other instruments that are in there in the soundstage, what the instruments are taking up frequency-wise compared to the vocals that are in there. But right now, I don't have the other instruments in because I've got the drums, bass, and these vocals carrying this song. And that's a big part of having the foundation and power of what this song is, you know. And then the other part was, you know, we had the guitar.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday.
And we talked about this guitar ringing out too long. I would have to edit that down so it get out the way of the groove. Now we got the piano, but I'm not gonna put the piano in right now. I want to hear what's going on with this. Hear all that low mid-range stuff that's and okay, so just thinking, I'm getting my head around where I want to place things. Volume-wise, levels and panning are so important to get this in a good starting place. So I'm still thinking in terms, and there's a lot of stuff here. So before I dive in and start finding everything, many times you don't have to do EQ if you use your levels and pans to find out where is the hole naturally in the frequency response within the sound stage. Sometimes panning something left or right a little bit gets it out of those frequencies that may have been a problem when it was in another place, you know. So it's worth it taking that time to do that, okay? And you know, so I just roughed this up here to just kind of put it up so you can hear it. But there's a lot of issues here, but I'm going to play this vocal, and I'm going to ask you a couple. In fact, let me mute this. I'm gonna mute this guitar back out for a second because we're not gonna worry about that. I'll get to the guitars and all the other stuff, and we're gonna make those nice and big and huge sounding, spread wide, but still clear and resonant. Where's that guitar I just had? This one. Okay, but right now I want to listen to the vocal, and then we're gonna pay attention to a couple of gotchas they put in here. Okay.
It's 1 a.m.
In fact, I'm gonna mute this bass too.
on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at a command. Check my phone, did you get the address? It's so nice out, it'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York.
Okay, so I wonder if you heard something that I heard in those vocals. I'm just gonna play them again. I want you to listen for something, and then I want to see if anybody caught some problems.
It's 1 a.m.
In fact, I'm still got something on here in the drums. What isn't going to the bus? Oh, these. Okay. Let's mute these rooms out for now. Forgot to send them to the drum bus. Wait a minute. Oh, that's this. Mute it all. I don't know where it's coming from.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over, the world is at her command. Check my phone, did you get the address? It's so nice out, it'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love.
Okay. Did anybody hear, there's a couple problems and everything, but did anybody hear any problems or issues in that first verse that that would need to be addressed immediately before digging in with some stuff? Anybody?
You got me. I didn't hear anything.
It wasn't necessarily a problem, but personally, I get rid of those breaths. Like, I only leave musical breaths in songs. I don't leave all that. I don't leave all that in there. And as far as there's a track that they added. I mean, I replaced it with the 140 plate, but there's a track that they added which is lead vocal effects.
The space, yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna need automation, so it's more intimate when you have it at a lower level, and then you can automate it up for when it's getting towards the chorus and whatnot.
Right, right.
But I don't think those are problems, but those are the two things that stood out to me about that particular vocal.
Okay, and Bill's right on the money with those things. That's one of the things. So what I'm going to do is mute these effects out, and then what I want you to listen for, guys. First of all, let me just play it again.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends.
Okay, let me, in fact, mute them so that we don't have to hear these. Okay, now what I want you to listen for now, there's a problem here, a couple of problems happening with the lead vocal and the background vocals. There's some spurious noises that popping in and out. And what happens, what I want you to remember is when you're mixing, and as you mix and as the mix gets better, things get clearer, including all the mistakes. So there's a lot of people that submitted this track already and mixed it, and they didn't take care of some of these things. So
it's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A.
Okay, did you guys hear that there are some low plosives happening in that lead vocal? There are some low plosives, low frequency stuff. There's some rumble, and actually there's a constant low frequency hum in this whole vocal track and in several of these tracks. So when they're all in, they add up. Did anybody hear that?
I mean, I didn't hear it right now, but when I was mixing it earlier, I definitely heard that. I think it was somewhere like around 140, 150 hertz. Like every time she speaks and every time the mic comes on, it comes up and you can see it and hear it really, really clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. So good, man, because that's one of the things that a lot of people will ignore, and that's huge. Because like I said, might not be a big deal with just one track. I got the one track solo, but by the time you start adding everybody in there, it starts building up, and a lot of people miss that. Now I'm gonna put this vocal space thing that they recorded too for a second and go back.
It's 1 a.m.
Now you hear that? There's a tone. Ooh, there's a note to that vocal space, whatever effect they used, and this is why Bill cleaned it up, and it was the right thing to do. What I would do is use it either as an effect, as part of an effect, or build a better effect, and maybe use it to feed an effect. But I wouldn't leave it in because here's the note.
1 a.m.
Ooh. Now stop it.
It's 1 a.m.
And plus some low rumble down there too.
On Saturday, stuck in a cab.
Okay, little stuff like that. And when she says stuck in a cab, did you hear that she overmodulated the mic capsule, or something happens where it's distorted on that? So you gotta, catching little things like that and to smooth it out, or using a proper processing that'll automatically kind of do that and make it sound like it's part of the characteristic, because it's not necessarily a bad thing, but just have to know that it's there and make some of these things work for you. Just for example, whenever whenever I use, like, say, a Neve mic preamp to record vocals and stuff like that, or any kind of instrument, I know it has a characteristic, and the character is not, it's not a clean preamp, it's a character preamp, so it adds a little bit of what I call pleasant organic distortion. So that's kind of what's going on with her thing too, where when she's hitting certain notes, you're getting that little crunch factor and everything. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be if you add the wrong stuff to it that makes it come out even more, and then you're wondering, wow, man, why is it sounding like that? So I just wanted to point that out.
Another thing about that whole plosive / low frequency thing is depending on the order in which you mix, which I start with my drums.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is, if you leave that in there, not only does it have a sound to the vocal, but it masks your kick.
Yeah.
So that's another reason, like when you put the vocals in, you can hear that your kick isn't as effective, so you end up high passing it for that reason also.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I hope y'all get these are the little things that a lot of people just keep diving in, and they don't think about all these things mount up and add up. You got to keep going back and keep readdressing and readdressing. See, for a song like this, for me, first of all, this song is very vocal intensive. So I would make sure the vocals and the drums are just magic. It's beefy and it's clear and everything, and nothing's messing with anything else. And then everybody else can be fitted in there pretty easily. But the drive of this song is coming from the drums, and then you got all these vocals that got their message. I want to make this go. When they go to those little vocals, she's saying the one part and it's playing off the toms, let me see, I'll show you.
It's 1 a.m.
Let me mute this thing out because that's driving me crazy. There's two tracks on here that have that little low frequency. Where's it at? Where's the other one?
On 3rd and A.
Right here.
Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over.
Oh, that's on the lead vocal too. Okay, I thought it was mainly this, but that's actually in the lead vocal as well. So that means you got to think about your filters,
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab.
See, and while I'm listening to this too, I'm also looking for things. So, I would be thinking about in terms of making this thing come together. So stuck in a cab is going to get a delay throw for me, because and maybe even the first 9.
It's 1 a.m.
No, I wouldn't do that. I would leave that there, but I'd probably have a effect back there that kind of simulates the late in the night, something with the reverb that I might just do it just for that little bit for a character, or some kind of character sound right there where the message comes in.
It's 1 a.m.
But still sounds kind of dry, but it's messing with you.
On Saturday, stuck in a cab.
I do a little throw there, muted, I mean filtered back there, so it's way in the back, so stuck in the cab, she's stuck in the cab, you know, because I'm subliminally putting that phrase in people's minds, you know, but I don't want it real blatant, you know, where it's like stuck in the cab, stuck in the cab, stuck in, I wouldn't do that. No, to be something real subtle back there, sound like a little ghost kind of in the back.
It's 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends.
See, and that's an important part there, that roll down the window, headed to a late show, or whatever she's saying. That's where she gets into the rhythm, and that part is playing off of the toms. That's why you can't strip out those toms, because that's part of what the groove is. She's grooving with that, you know. So Dre, when I was mentioning that to say, think about that. See, it's little things like that. They all work together. When you had more of it being more kick and snare centric, the toms that she was interplaying off of and getting the swing of the groove and everything was missing. So think about adding, how you can go back to add that back in, because she's playing off of that. And I'll show you, let me unmute just the overheads here.
Saturday, stuck in a cab.
Wait, where's my, oh, that, there we go.
Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd.
Now watch how her vocals playing with.
Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends.
And I'd make that ghostly back there.
The world is at her command. Check my phone.
It'd be ghostly, be sitting back. She's still playing off those tones. Build up, get big here. See, that should lead you into it should be no doubt that that's going in and something's going to happen big. And then the chorus. Now, here's the danger with this whole song. That chorus needs to be massive, but not too massive for the first chorus, because the last chorus is the one that really needs to kill them, you know. So this one needs to build up and go into there, get bigger than the verse is and all that, and have drive, but not too much. You know, so if you work that out and everything, that's where a lot of the guitar stuff and all that's going to help as well. But the toms, you can see in the toms and the vocals, this is a groove. If I get these grooves swinging with just those two, and it sounds like a record with just those two things going, people will imagine what's going on.
Saturday, stuck in a cab.
Yeah, let me go back a little bit.
1 a.m. 1 a.m. on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends. Now that winter's over,
no delay.
the world is at her command.
World is at her command. I might pull that out.
Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love.
Yeah, so when they get into that chorus, you know, I'd have to make contrast between the let's go to the chorus and see what's happening. But you know, and I'm not gonna dwell on this too long, but I want to give you an idea. This is how my mind is going for interplay with all these parts that are happening here, because they're all playing off and doing handoffs to each other to get the most out of this groove, you know, which is built into how these drums are pulsing. Okay, so let's go over. And now, oh, there was something else. I don't know if you guys caught it here. There was a track that they had. In fact, I'll make it active and Let's solo this for a second.
1 a.m.
Okay, there's this track here that they had that's a lead vocal track. I don't know if you can really hear it. Super recorded, super low. Let's see where it is. Here it is right here. And I want you to look at, see, this is the vocal track, and that's a lead vocal compared to the other one that's the lead vocal. You know, and the volume of this lead vocal, and here's the volume of this lead vocal, radically different, right? But that is a lead vocal right there. Obviously a scratch vocal. They left it in there because they want to see who's going to be paying attention and who's just going to leave that in there and push it up, and was kind of part of it. That ain't supposed to be in there. But I'm going to make sure. Let me unmute the lead vocal and put them both in there.
It's 1 a.m.
Let me pull this down a little bit so we can hear them together.
On Saturday, stuck in a cab.
See, timings are all off.
On 3rd and A.
Pitch is off.
Roll down the windows, headed to a late show out with all my friends.
Dropping.
Now that winter's over, the world is at her command. Check my phone. Did you get the address? It's so nice out. It'd be sad if you missed this late night wish to be young, to be in love.
Okay. Now here's the thing, and we don't know this. We wouldn't know it without having a conversation with the artist. Maybe they meant for it to be in there and meant for it to be a double. Even though it isn't tight and all that, maybe they meant for it to be a double. Maybe they didn't. I don't think it was supposed to be in there. I think it was just left in there to see if anybody would catch it and try to mess around and try to use it. But here's the other thing that you can do with that. That can also be, you can use that to double key lines. So when I was listening to the lead vocal earlier and talking about a couple of key things I wanted to splash out or make stand out or whatever, I could use that for source material as well, you know. And I could use it in a couple of different ways. I could either use it by itself, I mean, as far as with the other one or instead of the other one, if I made that decision. I probably wouldn't do that because this one I'm sure is the final lead vocal, so I wouldn't want to have a wrong line and use it instead of. But maybe enhance the other one, because there's a couple of times when they're tight enough where it could be used as a double to make a line stand out or something like that. And then there's other times when it isn't. So I would make that as a judgment call if I wanted to pull bits and pieces of this out. The other way I could use this is I could use just this one on the same lines and use this to feed a reverb or an effect or something like that while keeping this one in a whole nother type of space. So this will add another characteristic, and that helps to make something bigger as well, and you won't know why. But I would have the dry signal down and just use the send pre-fader into whatever effect and bring it back in and blend it with this. But this is the source of it instead of the main lead vocal. That can add a whole nother characteristic and bigness to what you're doing, as long as you don't get something that's too crazy as far as how different it is. But that one I don't think should be there. I wanted to point it out that because that could be a gotcha for y'all, and they might have been checking to see who's paying attention. So make that inactive, and let's check out a couple other things. Let me see what's going on, how we doing on time, because I'm probably going to come back. Yeah, it's after we've been on here a couple hours, and I have to roll to the airport and get out of here in a second. I'm gonna hit a couple other things, and then we'll come back on our final hangout and touch some more on some of these things. By then, I'll probably have set up some effects and stuff like that to show you a couple of the things I was talking about. You know, I'm not going to go in and do a full mix on this to show. I'm just going to do a couple of key things to show you how to think so that you guys can do your thing on there. I'm not entering the competition or anything like that. This is a lot of work. But if you pick and choose the things to work on, you can save yourself a lot of time. So my suggestion is on the drums, don't go overly crazy with them. They've got some issues. Tackle the main things and get them out the way. The vocals, the same thing. They got some issues, but I wouldn't go in worrying about tuning them to make them everything super perfect. There's a couple of things in here. In fact, let's go to it because there's one line that's really bad out of tune. So I would say definitely fix that, and then the other ones you can probably get away with just letting it roll.
It's 1 a.m.
Let's see. I'm just gonna solo.
on Saturday, stuck in a cab on 3rd and A. Roll down the windows, headed to a late show.
I didn't do my groups, so
now that
I've got to manually put these in here.
The world is at her command. Check my phone.
Oh, it's the tuning. Let's start with one, the low one.
It'd be sad if you miss this late night wish to be young, to be in love in New York City. It's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side.
See, so I make this main hook vocal real nice and clear, and these ahs I probably put a whole nother characteristic and make them set back so that they're functioning more ghostly because they're doing ahs.
We step inside, whisper soft, it's good to see you. Grab a drink in a corner with a front view of the band on stage, and my friends swing side to side. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side, let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side, let's forget everything. Come on, kiss me. The music's right. Let's dance free tonight.
You hear that reverb that they put in there? Just chop off.
In New York City.
That might have been me though, because I did edit some stuff.
It's
So
a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything.
Okay, so what I would do with those is get all these working together, balanced, texturized, where you've got the sound stage, work with the pans to move things around. As far as these lead, like these background parts, like that one low part on the ahs. At first I started out with them hard left and right, but I ended up pulling the low note in a little bit because low notes usually can go closer to the center, Not always, that's not a hard and fast rule, but as I was listening, I felt it wouldn't hurt anything. What I would do is go back then and listen with the pianos and all the other stuff in just to be sure that I don't have a big clogged up mess. But I'm gonna be fitting everybody to the main power elements here to that's what's going to make the difference. But make sure these vocals are balanced out. Make sure they sound clear. I would find a way to double up some of the main hook vocal or whatever. We only got a couple of tracks here, so I would want to thicken them up and use doublers and or some kind of way, maybe even re-record some of the parts and remodulate them so that I can blend them in with a different characteristic and make it bigger. Lot of things that could be done here to make these background vocals sound real big and hooky. You want the hook to come out. So, you know, in New York City, when people are hearing this, you want to make them go to New York City to fall in love, because that's what this is, a springtime lovers fling, you know. So you want to build that in subliminally to what they're hearing. And there's a lot of the details in here. Bill had mentioned previously, there's a lot of little cutoffs and noises and things like that that you can make the decision whether they need to be in or out. There's a couple of places where the microphone fries. There's a couple of plosives and low end stuff. There's rumbles and all that. Go through these tracks and be sure you know what you've got, you know. In fact, I'm gonna do one last thing before we get off of here. Let me just play the backgrounds without the leads in. And then this is here.
On Saturday, on 3rd and A, headed to a late show out with all my friends.
Yeah, you heard that? That's got to be found. Oh, listen to the pitch. One of those tracks is worth in the cutoffs.
In New York City, it's a springtime lovers.
Did you hear that?
Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything.
You hear all that? Get that out of there. It's got to be clean, in clean, little chirps and birds going on. And you hear that plosive?
It's good to see you.
And you hear that? Headphone leakage?
Band on stage and my friends swing side to side. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers fling. Meet on the east side. Let's forget everything. In New York City, it's a springtime lovers fling.
Every time they say springtime lovers fling, there's a little thing, a little pop thing going on here.
Let's forget everything. Come on, kiss me. The music's right. Let's dance free tonight. In New York City.
Let me go back, because I think that tonight, I remember, let's see what's going on with that.
Free tonight. In New
Yeah, that's pretty out of tune. Let's turn that.
free tonight.
Now that's interesting. That tonight is out of tune in certain areas, but you actually can get away with. You can make a decision whether to tune that or not, because you can get away with it if it's blended properly with the other ones. You know, they smooth each other out. You know, so that'll be a judgment call that you can make. But they do smooth each other out a bit if you use them in the right balance. I think that's all I'm gonna do for today, guys. Any final questions from anybody? Let's go back here and take us off a screen share.
Not a question here, just very cool demo. Appreciate it.
Oh man, this is fun. It's real cool. And Dre, I don't know if you're still there hearing us or whatever, but like I said too, and when we first started this thing, there's no right way or wrong way. So I'm not saying what you did is wrong. So I'm actually just saying, okay, go back and re-examine what you might have missed in your approach, because it actually did sound pretty good, but there's some elements that you need to go back and just rethink about and make sure that you didn't lose anything in your quest to make your drums this way or whatever, or your vocals. You did a lot of editing and stuff like that. Make sure that you get the lead vocal and you did all that, but are the background vocals still there supporting them? Do you have the back and forth, the play off of each other that is existed? Did we lose the interplay that the vocals had with those toms? You can hear now, I think you can see that when I showed you that, you can see how important that they are to each other, to the final groove. So just go ahead and re-examine what you did and just keep elevating what you're doing. And everybody that's watching, this is all that I'm trying to do, is let you know that there's a lot of little things that can make dramatic improvements when they all start adding up, and it'll cause you not to have to do as much, because you'll get the core stuff going and you'll be farther ahead than probably 80 or 90% of the other people that don't do these things, that are submitting stuff and they're just digging right in and throwing all kinds of stuff on there. Yours will end up sounding more powerful, clearer, because you took the time to go in and get all these little things out of the way, so then stuff doesn't have to fight each other to get in there. You took the time to make sure things were tight and locked together, so that when things are rubbing, you're not hearing all these other little things that are a trip, So let me mute this out. And little stuff like that. So if you go ahead and do that, bruh, you'll be fine. You'll be totally cool. And I think it'll work out good for you. Everybody else that's doing this competition or just learning for your own, knowledge and everything. If you feel like submitting something to me and letting me hear what you're doing, I'm totally cool with listening to that. So, in fact, let me go over here and bring this thing in, where if you want to send me, I'll put on my desktop thing again, and hopefully you can see that. Shoot me an email to this address. Get that out the way. So yeah, just send me an email to Khaliq at Khaliq-O-Vision.com. And if you want to get notified and be on these additional hangouts, not miss the next one, go to mymusichangouts.com and put your name and email on the notify list, so that I can let you know what's going on and other things beyond this. Or you can go to mixingacademy.com too. That'll accomplish the same thing. Guys, I hope this was helpful. This is what I meant it to be, and I hope you will consider submitting to me. Send me an MP3 of what you did. Let me take a listen to it. I'll give you some good feedback, I think, and help you before you submit to the competition. If you want me to listen, I'm happy to do it for anybody that just wants to reach out. Okay, everybody, that's basically it. Let me get that off of here. That's basically it, guys. So if everybody's good, we'll wrap it up for tonight, okay?
Cheers, everybody.
Everybody cool?
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it, Khaliq.
All right, now, everybody have a wonderful evening. Catch y'all on the next one.
All right, thank you.
Peace.
All right,
Thank you.
see
Good night.
All right.